Hello. Can everyone hear me all right?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, lovely. I'm about 2 minutes early. Should we give another minute or two for people to join in?
Yeah, while we're doing that, I'm going to go ahead and share the screen again because I just started the YouTube stream and there's a little informational screen and we'll share it, and then people who see YouTube will see it on the stream, and I'll just keep it up for a few seconds.
Okay.
Venerable, what time of the morning is it there?
Hello, Joanna. Hi, Patrick. It is 5:15 in the morning.
Okay, I thought you'd be up early.
Yeah, bright and bushy-tailed, as we used to say.
The life of a nun, eh?
Yep, I'm up this time anyway, so.
All right.
I'm just taking a peek here at all these amazing faces. So many friends joining in. Hello. I see Elise, Heyman.
Hi. Lucy Spencer from Arlington.
Oh my goodness, hello.
Kate Spencer's mother. And
Yes, I remember. And I see Kate here too.
yes,
Hi, great to see you.
Joy, David, Karen, Droll Car.
So far.
Tequila. I'm in great shock that Robert Watkins is using technology to do Zooming.
That impressed me too. Yes.
Few of you with photos instead of video, but that's okay. A few people I don't know.
Are we hearing birds waking up there?
Oh, yes.
That's great.
I closed the window right next to me because the young nuns are doing their Pecha recitation. And if the window was open, you would be hearing da 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 da. All right, so maybe we should get started, Donna.
All right, sounds good. I'm going to mute myself so that I don't make any noises and disrupt things. Like, for example, I was thinking of going da 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 da. All right, take it away.
So very warm greetings to all of you who have joined today. I don't know what time it is for some of you. So that's the beauty of Zoom. We can all be together from all around the world. It's quite amazing. And thank you so much to Kadampa Center for hosting this, inviting me to come and join you all, because it's just such a joy to be with you today. So Kadampa Center is my Dharma home. It's where I first met the Dharma, and my precious teacher, Geshe Gelik Choda, as well as so many amazing lamas, including Lama Zopa Rinpoche, of course. So I have a very special connection to Kadampa Center. And of course, many of you are also not associated with the center, but I may direct my talk a little bit towards them since they are the hosts. So I thought I would start with just talking about the nunnery, how I got here, what are some of the experiences I've had now that I am here. I'll have some photos during part of the talk so that you can get a better idea of what it's like here at the nunnery. And then at the end, Donna's moderating questions, so send her any questions you have on chat, and she'll ask them at the end so we can have the chance to have a little more dialogue without my getting too sidetracked and dragging on too long. Also, I just want to say that if this does go on too long for you, for whatever time zone you're in, feel free to drop out. It's not rude at all. So come and go as you need to. And I'd like to start with just a motivation that may this talk and discussion that we have here today inspire all of our minds to practice the Dharma and to be of benefit to all sentient beings. So the name of the nunnery where I am is called Kacho Gakil Ling, which in English means pure land of bliss. And it's very rare that you'll hear people calling the nunnery by that name. Most of us just refer to Kopan's nunnery because we are actually a branch of Kopan Monastery. And we're located here in Kathmandu in Nepal. There are about 360 nuns practicing here, living here. Originally, when the nunnery started, it was because there were Tibetan refugees and some who were living in Nepal who came to Kathmandu and as students of Lama Yeshe wanted to become ordained, and then they started the nunnery. So the Kopan monastery was already here, and they built the nunnery from scratch. And then over time, more and more Nepali women started coming, and the demographic has been shifting from Tibetan to Nepali. But there's a real mix of both now. And there are only 3 of us who are here who are not from that general population. So I don't want to say Westerners because we're also from all around the world. I'm from America originally. Ani Nina is from South Africa. And then Ani Naljorma is from Taiwan originally, I think. Apologies to her if I got that wrong. And so we're staying all in a little retreat house, which I'll show you in a bit. And then I think the history of the nunnery is absolutely fascinating, but just for the sake of time, I'm not going to talk a lot about how the nunnery started. But Venerable Rabina Korten is working on an article for Mandala magazine, and she's also writing a book about the history of Kopan, both the monastery and the nunnery. So I encourage you to look for those because they're sure to be excellent. So I guess the first question, which I sometimes still ask myself, is how did I get here? So the last time I think I saw most of you was in 2015, which is when I left North Carolina for New Zealand. I was looking for a change and found an opportunity to offer service at one of our retreat centers in a remote part of New Zealand. So I decided to give that a try. And left for New Zealand, where I spent about 4 years at Mahamudra Center first, and then at Chandrakirti Center, which is on the South Island. And then during that time, it was a major adjustment, both because it was a new culture and a totally different way of life to be in this very remote farming town of New Zealand, where the retreat center was located. And so a lot of things changed for me while I was there. Many of you know and have teased me over the years, because I've been practicing with you for almost 20 years, that I'm probably the last person to have decided that I should be a nun. Everyone else says, well, so are you going to be a nun? When are you going to be a nun? Geshe Gelek used to tease me all the time. When are you going to be a nun? And I felt very strongly before that, you know, there is a place for serious lay practitioners in Buddhism, that is also an important role. And I still strongly believe that. But as I went through these changes living at this retreat center, I began to see that Dharma is my life, and I just couldn't really see myself doing anything else. And it just made more and more sense that I be ordained and live the life of a nun. It just really started to fit my mind. And I was still quite nervous about it because, you know, as I was looking back at my life and trying to make this decision, so many times I would have an idea in my head of what's going to happen, what I want to do. And then of course it all turns out completely differently. And that's what we do. We create this whole fantasy of what we're going to do and what we're going to be. And then all these things happen that we never would have expected or predicted. So I had gone to the retreat in Bendigo, Australia with Lama Zopa Rinpoche. And I talked with some of the kind Sangha there about what I was thinking, and that I was thinking about asking Rinpoche, but still a bit nervous. But after really talking with some mentors, I decided it was time to tell Rinpoche that I really wanted to be ordained, but that I was not sure if it was auspicious or not, if I would really do well in that situation. So because he has the karmic view to know whether or not things are most auspicious, I wrote a letter to Rinpoche and was able to pass it to him personally as he was leaving the Gompa. And later he was walking by me and he looked at me and he just went, "You had a question." And I went, "Yes, Rinpoche." And he asked me what it was. And I said, "You know, is it auspicious if I become ordained?" And he just laughed. He just thought that was hilarious. So a little while, he left, and a little while later, I got a note back from Venerable Holly saying that Rinpoche had suggested that I should spend the next year really focusing on the Lam Rim and preparing myself. And then it would be most auspicious if I came to Kopan in 2019. And so that's what I started looking forward to and planning for. And I decided, since I had heard so many times about the famous November course, but had never had the realization of it by actually going, that perhaps it was time I should do that. And so that's how I started planning going to Kopan. There were obstacles that arose, but plans still kept moving forward. And then there were also wonderful things that evolved, because when I started planning, I didn't know that Venerable Robina Korten would be leading that November course. There was a last minute change and she came in as the teacher. And so it was incredibly special to be here with her as the teacher. And of course, half of the November course is also led by Lama Zopa Rinpoche. And then we were also treated to many guest teachers, including cadre law. And it was just, yeah, an amazing experience. So I'm going to try my screen share here so that you can see some photos. So here's the November course crew. And it was a big course. From what I understand, it was a record number of people. So there were 250 people who stayed with the entire course. And so at the end, normally at the end of the November course, Rinpoche will do an ordination. There's usually quite a few people who will come with that in mind, or who have requested it. And so that's why I had planned to come. But Rinpoche's schedule was very tight last year, and it wasn't clear whether he would have time to do an ordination after the course. And in fact, he didn't have time, or it wasn't most auspicious is probably more correct. But we were, those of us who were really thinking about it and staying for that, which was a very small number, were told to just wait. And I had known when I came that I just needed to be completely flexible about my plans, that there was no predicting when exactly and if exactly it would happen. So I left everything open when I left New Zealand. And so after the November course, I had time to just continue to practice and reflect. And at the end of the course, I did my last, well, maybe not last, but did my sort of worldly celebration of going out to see the new Star Wars movie that had released. So I knew I wanted to get that in. And I spent some time at the various holy sites around Kathmandu. Of course, you may be familiar with Bodha Stupa. So Kopan is close enough that it's just about a 20-minute walk to get down to Bodha Stupa and circumambulate, have a good pizza. My friends would take me to Swayambanath Stupa, and we would circumambulate there, which you may know as Monkey Temple, because there are lots of monkeys that are around that particular stupa. Also, Lama Tsongkhapa Day happened after the November course, and this is a picture of the monastery's Gampa covered in light offerings. It was incredibly beautiful. Both the monastery and nunnery cover their big buildings in these fairy lights or Christmas tree lights. And this is Rigsel Rinpoche, who is right in the middle of the light offering celebration. He is the reincarnation of the former abbot of Kopan, Lama Lundrup. And so that was, again, something very special, is to meet some of these incredible practitioners. And to spend time with the monastics doing virtuous activities. So we offered candles all over the stupa garden on Lama Tsongkhapa Day. So it was really beautiful. And then we had puja afterwards. So this is the group of us who ordained together. And it was a real up and down sort of roller coaster of, is it going to happen? Is it not going to happen? All the way in from the end of November course, which was late December, until we got ordained on January 20th. So about a month of waiting. And we didn't even know until literally the day before that when it was going to happen. And there was still a sort of, well, we're going to wait until the next morning to actually shave our heads and get ready, because again, it could change. So we got up early the next morning, and the senior Western monastics helped us got ready. In the middle is now Jorma. So she was down at the nunnery at the time, as was Munsel, who is just behind her, Venerable Munsel. And so they prepared down there. And then I was staying still at the monastery at that time. And so Venerable Jan or Venerable Tenzin helped me get ready. And then my friends, Venerable Tempa, and now his name has gone right out of my head. It's too early in the morning. So we all came together and had to learn to put on the robes, of course. We had been practicing a bit ahead of time, but we still all felt quite awkward managing all this, all these bits and pieces. And so we look back at this photo and laugh now about how we were feeling at the time, quite nervous and awkward. But like everything, you know, the robes, you get more familiar with them over time, and then they just become natural. They're just your daily protection for your mind. And so I thought I'd share some pictures of the ordination that Kopan took. So here you have Lama Zopa Rinpoche, and then the fully ordained monks, because we ended up taking Gelong ordination, which required fully ordained monks in order to have enough qualified Sangha to offer it. And what we found hilarious is that you can see that just about everyone in the picture are mini monks, you know, very little young monks. And then over on the right-hand side, there's us Westerners, us grown-ups, some of us with gray hair still. And so we had this huge group of kids getting ordained with us. And it was an all-day process, because Rinpoche very kindly taught as well as did the ordination. And so we got advice, and much of it was in language we didn't understand. So there would be, say, some teaching in Tibetan, and then a senior monk would translate into Nepali for the young Nepalis, and then Geshe would translate for us into English. And then sometimes Rinpoche would switch over and teach directly in English. And so there was a lot of back and forth of many different languages, and everyone trying to understand what was happening. And so here you can see another view of us with our kind translator sitting next to us. And so once we were ordained, then there was the process of what happens next. And I had given a lot of thought about what I might want to do. And of course, really wanted Lama Zopa Rinpoche's advice about what would be most beneficial. And so I narrowed it down, and that included the possibility of staying here. And again, I was able to send the question to Rinpoche, and Rinpoche sent a reply back. And the advice was to stay at Kopan and study with a Geshe and a good translator. So there's a whole process to be able to stay, especially for an extended length of time. So I began to learn about and navigate being a part of a community. Oh yeah, sorry, I forgot to share this one, which is us 3 Western women coming up to Rinpoche together. So you go up in 3s for ordination for the final part of the ceremony. So that was very special. Right after the ordination, there was a big Guru Boomsock at the Nunnery. And this is a photo of the setup of the giant tanka that was hung, and then the tent to help protect us during the puja. And so we had a great opportunity to start creating merit right away, because we would have used up a whole lot of our virtue and merit in order to ordain. And again, one of the biggest challenges of being here is that almost everything is entirely in Tibetan. So I spend a lot of time not knowing what's going on. And that included the Bumsak. I know there's a text available in English somewhere, but I wasn't organized enough to get it ahead of time. And I wanted to share with you some of the amazing photos of the offerings, because I think it's so inspiring of the incredible offerings that are set up. So in front of that tanka, there's just an entire row of tables filled with beautiful offerings. And it was basically holiday time at the nunnery. And so we had a chance to do a little bit of sightseeing. This was a visit to Nama Buddha, which is where the Bodhisattva from the Golden Light Sutra offers his body to the tigers to eat. And so one of Buddha's former lives, and that's one of my favorite stories. So it was really amazing to connect with the place where it happened. And this is just one small part of the place. It's not the actual spot where the tigers were. That was in another area. But this was a stupa temple that had a relic of the Buddha actually in it. And this is our abbot, Ken Rinpoche, with one of my little friends, Mushi. So as I moved down from the monastery to the nunnery and got the advice from Lama Zopa Rinpoche, I needed to request from Ken Rinpoche to be able to stay long-term. And so I made an appointment and explained to Ken Rinpoche, Geshe Chuni, that I had this advice from Rinpoche, and that I would like to stay and to study and offer service to the nunnery if needed. And so, of course, he very kindly allowed for that to be. And so this is the retreat house where I'm living. What you see here in the photo is there's this little gompa right in the middle of the complex. And then there's rooms that surround it in a square. And so I'm in one of the rooms. One of the benefits of not being fully enrolled in the program is that I'm still able to have a single room with a bathroom in it. Our priorities, right? So all of the other nuns who are in the program, as they enter, have roommates. They have one or two roommates that they share with. And then the bathrooms are shared facilities as well that they go out to use, which was not an unfamiliar situation from New Zealand. I also often had to live in accommodation where I had to go out to use the toilet, but it's a real luxury to have my own. So I'm rather happy to be in the retreat house and have a bit of privacy, because us as Westerners are not used to sharing our quarters so closely with a lot of other people. And this is a view of the new Gompa. So there are actually two Gompas here. If you've come to visit the nunnery in past years, you maybe saw the old Gompa, but the number of nuns coming to the nunnery outgrew the size of the Gompa. So a new one was built, I believe, around 2015. And so now there's definitely room for all of us. And it is absolutely stunning. It's completely covered in holy images. This is the entrance to the Gompa, where there's the Wheel of Life and a painting of attaining calm abiding and many other amazing deities. And there are snow lions and all kinds of wonderful things. And then inside the Gampa, the main figure is Avalokiteshvara, thousand-armed Chenrezig, which for those of you who aren't Buddhist is a manifestation of perfect compassion and wisdom. And it's, as you can see from the scale of the thrones where the teachers sit, that it's quite large, probably 2 stories. This picture is taken from a balcony. And some of the things that were happening during this holiday time when the nuns were had a break from their studies, and many of whom go home and visit their families, there was a new kitchen opening. So facilities had been improved and a new kitchen built. And so this is a little insider view into the nunnery kitchen, which has to feed 360 nuns all day, every day. And there was a lovely little ceremony where Kim Rinpoche came down and they blessed the kitchen. And it's a big step up from some of the old facilities, as you can see. So I think everyone was very glad that it would be easier for the cooks. And then you can see this is one of the dining rooms, and it's light and airy and clean. So really a beautiful new facility. And then one of my favorite areas of the nunnery is the butter lamp offerings. There's a glass and tin structure where all the butter lamps are. And then every day nuns go in and fill the butter lamps with melted butter and handmade wicks, and then light them on behalf of all sentient beings. And especially in the evening when the light is low, it's just incredibly inspiring, really beautiful to see. And there's a stupa in progress being built here at the nunnery. This is a stupa in memorial of the former abbot Lama Lundrup. It's a little hard to see the scale, but it's quite large, and it's modeled on the Enlightenment stupa in Bodh Gaya. So once it's completed, it will be incredible. And it's this site behind the wall, which you don't see in this photo, is still a construction site. So it's quite unattractive, but eventually there are plans for a beautiful garden. If you've been to Kopan Monastery, you know how amazing the stupa garden is and how nice it is to go out and circumambulate. So it will be a real blessing for the nunnery to have that. Not much has happened on it really since I've been here. I understand that it's both because of lack of funds, and then of course the virus came and sort of changed everything. So the nuns have much patience, long view for big projects like this. And regular trips to Bodha as often as possible. All of the nuns like to go to Bodha and do circumambulation. And then just to give you an idea of sort of where the nunnery is, this is a view from the roof of one of our buildings, and the retreat hut is down in the left-hand corner, or the retreat building where I stay. And then up on the top of the hill is Kopan Monastery. And again, for those of you who came here many years ago, the nunnery used to be surrounded by rice fields and very rural. But now Kathmandu has sprawled and expanded, and we're completely enclosed now by city dwellings. So it's a very different environment than you would have experienced when you came here many years ago. So I'm going to join you again. And we'll look at some photos again later. So during this time of holiday, I'm starting to try and learn how to be a nun. And normally what would happen would be whenever possible, as soon as you get ordained, if you haven't already, you go to the pre-ordination course at Tushita in India. And the timing of the ordination and the course meant that we would go after ordination. But this is when the virus first started appearing and becoming more serious. And there was a lot of doubt as to whether the pre-ordination course would happen. And we had booked our tickets and were ready to go. And just a very short time before, they had to cancel it. So we were sad, but of course understood why. And even more sad for the people who had planned to go for the pre-ordination course and actually get ordained with His Holiness the Dalai Lama, because that would have been really sad news to learn that your ordination is canceled. So our hearts went out to our fellow students who were planning to go. And then I was going to go to the Bendigo retreat in Australia, and that of course was canceled as well. So all plans changed, but we had the fortune that Geshe Tenzin Namdak, who normally would have led the pre-ordination course. He's led it in the past, and then Venerable Legsok was going to lead it this year, who many of you know. So Geshe Namdak is an expert, of course, in the course. And he came here to Kopan. And so we had the opportunity to have a full day with Geshe Namdak, just our little ordination group, getting teachings on the Vinaya and our vows. And then we were able to watch videos provided by IMI, the Institute for the International Mahayana Institute, which is our organization that takes care of the monks and nuns of FPMT. And so that was what we had to do in lieu of being able to attend the course. And then, really then life started to head into lockdown. And that's a unique situation for all of us. And basically how that evolved for us here at the Nunnery is that, we follow whatever advice Ken Rinpoche Geshe Chuni gives, the abbot. He's the abbot of both the monastery and the nunnery. And before Nepal went into lockdown, Rinpoche saw that it was important that the monastic institutions go into lockdown. And it's very wise because we are in facilities where social distancing and really isn't possible, with all the nuns sharing quarters, with shared dining room facilities. It would be very hard to see how a social distancing plan could be effective. And of course, the nuns who come here as children, the older nuns are serving as both their teachers and their mothers, basically, their absent mothers. And so it's more like 180 or so mothers and 180 children, something like that. I don't know the exact numbers, all taking care of each other. And, children need contact and help. And so social distancing in this sort of situation doesn't really work. So it's really better that we isolate ourselves completely from the outside the walls in order to protect the whole community from the virus coming in. And so we did lock down earlier. And there were nuns who were coming back from their holiday as quickly as possible to try and get back in. And anyone who was coming back would be in 2-week quarantine before they would join back into their normal room. My friend, Venerable Tenzin Palmo, was in Prague And unfortunately, she didn't make it back in time. So she got stuck there, which was a real change in our plans because she was going to be my translator. And she doesn't have internet where she is. So she couldn't be with me to help me get teachings with a Geshe. And also she's been a great emotional support and friend, was able to give me a lot of good advice. And so it was difficult that she wouldn't be here to help me understand what was happening. So I missed her very much. And she still hasn't made it back. She's still trying to get back to Kathmandu. We hear that flights may start August 15th. But as you know, things can change at any moment. And, you know, things changed as far as our access to things like fresh food. So a lot of the nuns have cooking facilities in their rooms where they cook food that supplements what we're given at the nunnery, and go out and get fresh vegetables and the things that they need. But with the lockdown, not only were we no longer able to go out to get extra supplies, but the nunnery couldn't get as much fresh food. So again, there's a lot of wisdom here, and they've been through many, many difficult situations, including the great big earthquake that happened not too many years ago. So they know how to plan for these things. And so they had bought a huge store of rice and dal and basics, and they had a plan for bringing in things like potatoes and things that were really the necessities. So that's incredibly important and very well done. But it's easy to be very attached to food. I think about it a lot. And so there was a pretty big shift in what we were eating. And that's been affected by when Kathmandu first locked down. Vehicles weren't allowed to move through the city. And so even when essential business was allowed, including food delivery, sometimes the vehicles couldn't get through. All of the supply chains for the city fell apart. So it was difficult for a little while to get anything fresh, but that's gotten better over time. And now it's much better because as the supply chains started opening back up again, there's a little store for the nuns here in the nunnery. And so the store started working out, getting some extra fresh vegetables and fruits, and we're able to buy them through the nunnery store. So that's been very kind of them. And a few times, the senior nuns and the Westerners were allowed to go up to Kopan for special pujas for Lama Zopa Rinpoche, or to do prayers for the virus. And so there were a few times I've been outside the walls. I had to also go outside in order to renew my visa at one point. That is a whole nother hilarious story, but probably not enough time for it today. And so I haven't been completely in the nunnery that whole time, but otherwise, yes, we've been restricted to the nunnery since that would have been somewhere around March, I think. Kathmandu opened up a few weeks ago. Nepal opened up a few weeks ago, but the virus has quickly been increasing. So it looks like at least partial lockdown is coming back again very soon. But the nunnery and monastery have stayed locked down. I thought you might be interested in what an average day is like here at the nunnery. So after the holiday ends and the nuns return to their study program, at 5 a.m., the older nuns go to the puja hall and do prayers, while the younger nuns go to the classrooms and do their memorizing, which we talked about when we first started, where they're learning the texts in Tibetan, the prayers. When they go in to do prayers in the Gampa, typically they don't have books. And so they have to have everything memorized. The exception would be when they do prayers that are unusual or pujas that are unusual, then texts are passed out because not enough people know them. They're not done as regularly. And then while we're doing those things, we have a breakfast served to us, which is sometimes just a piece of white bread and some Tibetan butter tea, which is not my favorite. I still have not gotten completely used to Tibetan butter tea. But it's a good way to eat bread, is to dip it in the tea. And sometimes we get some extras like potatoes or special buns with hot sauce that you can dip in. And so it varies a little bit day to day. My favorite day is Tuesday because, as you can tell, I like food, where we get a fried bread that's like almost like a not too sweet donut, which is awesome. And so the children get it in their class, and we get it in puja. So some of the young nuns are sent out, and they run out and they get pots of tea and crates of bread, and then they go through the Gampa and hand it out. And then as dedications are being read, we have our breakfast in our seats. And I can't help but think during those dedications about the kindness of the sponsors who make it possible for us to have the nunnery, to be here, to be fed, because we really rely on the sponsors for our basic needs. And so it really touches my heart when we get our breakfast and are thinking about the sponsors who support us in dedicating our prayers at that time. And so after puja, there are classes. Puja usually goes until about anywhere between 7:30 or 8:30. And then lunch is around 11:30. And then more classes. And there is a break in the afternoon when most of the nuns try and grab a nap. And the classes go until 5 p.m. when there's debate. So the nuns practice Tibetan debate in order to fully understand the texts, remove doubt. And then there's an optional dinner. And then after dinner, there's more memorizing. So you'll hear again the da 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 da, all the young nuns practicing their prayers. And the older nuns are studying their philosophy. And about 9:30 at night, it starts to get quiet again. The nuns finish their memorizing, but many are still studying, doing practice until 10 to 11:30, depending on what they need to do. So it's quite a long day. For me, it's a bit different because I'm not fully in that system. The way that the nunnery would typically work is that, the nuns come here as children. And so they go up through school together. They study language, math, science, philosophy, and basically grow up together. And then as they get older and finish their philosophy classes, they might study rituals. They might become more involved in the service of the nunnery, helping to do all the jobs of the nunnery. And I thought I would start sharing some pictures again here. So here are some of our young nuns. This is Gishima Punsok, who has the katas in her hand and is reaching out to the young nuns. And so now they can also become teachers. So it was only a few years ago that His Holiness the Dalai Lama instituted that nuns can become Geshes. And for those of you who are not familiar with this terminology, a Geshe is the degree, the highest degree that you earn in the monastic institution, and involves about 20 years of study and debate. And they go and they take exams in India and have to debate in front of a whole committee. So we have 2 Geshe-mas from the very first class of Tibetan and Nepali Geshe-mas who went and competed. So now they have inspiration for the young nuns to see that they actually too can become teachers. It's according to Ani Jongsem, the manager, she said it was a real shift that now there's more motivation for the debate to really do it well, because they see that they can be of more benefit now that they can be teachers. So when you talk to the nuns about becoming Geshe-mas, they talk about how they want to benefit all sentient beings. It's not about getting the degree. They see it as just something possible for them, and that if it's what's most beneficial, then they really hope to do it. But they don't have the sort of Western way of, I'm going to be a Geshe. It's really beautiful though. So it's amazing that they have that those role models here. The other teachers who are here are male Geshes, and so we have several male Geshes who live in the Gampa in a separate area, who are also teachers. So before, that's how they had to arrange teachers, because the nuns couldn't become their own teachers the way they can now. They might offer service in the incense factory. So many of the nuns take a turn. So this is one of the ways that the nunnery can support itself, is by getting income from selling really nice Tibetan incense. These are our 2 Geshes, Geshe-ma Punsak and Geshe-ma Gyalmo, in one of their rooms. This is the kindergarten classroom. So when I started my studies here, because I needed to learn Tibetan from ground up, I joined the Little Nuns for Kindergarten. And you don't see all of them here, but yeah, it's a very different way of learning. It's a very loud way of learning. The Tibetans have this saying that you'll remember it if you do it loudly. And so that's why the Pecha memorization is so loud. And when they're spelling in class, it's all very loud. So it's a bit of a shock for an old woman like me. And kindergarten was in sort of the most rustic of the classrooms. So most of the classrooms are a bit more modern. They have nice whiteboards, a little bit cleaner. So this isn't a complete impression of what the classrooms are like. But in addition to that, I decided that I needed more explanation in English, because our kindergarten teacher was able to teach in both Nepali and some English, but to really understand the grammar, I needed more in-depth English explanation. So I started doing online classes. And this is my philosophy teacher, Geshe Jimpa, with one of his 2 little dogs, who greet me every time I come up. And I was able to arrange for a online translator who was a Westerner living. He was in Dharamsala, but now he's gone back to England. And so he joins me via Zoom, and we Geshe very kindly teaches from me for an hour from Monday through Friday, and we just have a individual class, because it would be very difficult to have a translator trying to translate live what the the classes with the other nuns. So that's incredibly kind and special. And I get to give him all kinds of puzzling questions from the Western point of view. And some of the things that I've been doing, in addition to studying Tibetan language and philosophy, I offer service with my camera. As many of you know, I like to do photography and video. And so if you've been watching, there are these amazing series of mind transformation videos of teachings from Lama Zopa Rinpoche up at the monastery. And before them, they were doing a series of history of Kopan. The nunnery needed some representation, so I volunteered to do filming here. And so the videos of the Geshe-mas teaching and the little nuns chanting and the interview with Venerable Sangmo, we all did together. And occasionally some of the things you see up on the nunnery Facebook page I'll have helped with. And I've helped them a little bit with their technology. We figured out a way to set up the live streaming of His Holiness the Dalai Lama when he started teaching online, so that the nuns who don't have access to phones or any kind of technology could all join together and watch His Holiness teach. And once we figured it out, then the nuns were able to set it up themselves. So that was a fun thing to do. I meet with some of the young nuns to trade English for Tibetan practice. And then I also meet with one of the Geshe-mas to help with English. So I get some help. I don't find Tibetan to be an easy language to listen to or speak, so I need a lot of help. And I love libraries, so I've gone in a few times, volunteered in the library to help organize the Western books that we have. And this is the ceremony from opening the new library. So it moved from one room to the new room where there's a bit more room. And for those of you who have come to Kopan and stayed at the monastery, they have this amazing library up at the monastery that's filled with both Tibetan texts and Western texts. Unfortunately, the nunnery don't have that same kind of access. You can see on the right-hand side, that's the majority of the books. So it's something that in my heart, I hope to help somehow over the time that I'm here to get more books into their library. Besides what you saw in that one picture, there's just another set of 2 shelves that have the Western and children's books. And so after the virus passes and things can get back to regular commerce and ability to get more things into the nunnery, I hope to get some new books for the nunnery. And there have been some really special pujas that happened, including Lama Zopa Rinpoche and Kadrala, who's in this picture, as well as some of the abbots of other monasteries have all been coming together and doing big fire pujas at various sites all around Kathmandu, including here at the nunnery and at the monasteries where all of these lamas are from, again, to purify and protect from the virus for the benefit of everyone, for the whole world. And so that gives you sort of an idea of what's been happening since I've been here. And I mentioned that I'm not really in the system because I'm an old woman, but a junior nun, which means that, you know, in the Tibetan system, there's a protocol of the junior nuns show respect to the older nuns who've held their vows for longer and have more wisdom and experience. And so I'm a junior nun, but because of my age, there's also this tradition of, you respect your elders. And then I'm also a Westerner. So that means that I don't quite fit with the Nepali and Tibetan community. And so the way that things work, it's not always clear where I should sit, even where I should sit when I go to pujas. It took me about a month to figure out where I should sit and for them to be comfortable with it as well. The communication flows can be a real challenge because all of the announcements are in Tibetan and things change at the last minute all the time. And that's done by word of mouth. And they have a whole chain of communication where there are captains who tell their team of nuns what the latest announcement is. But out here in the retreat house, we don't get those announcements. So I just have to keep watching carefully and trying to guess what's happening and then ask somebody who might speak enough English to tell me what's going on. And I end up making a lot of mistakes. Both because, I don't ask the right questions, or I'm just inexperienced, or I get nervous. And so there's many lessons in humility here. And then culturally, there's still a lot I have to learn about how we interact. One example of that is when we line up for anything, when we line up in the Gompa in order to do certain ceremonies or line up at the shop in order to get food. Culturally, everybody just crams together. And I'm used to very American and British cues where, everybody very orderly lines up and you politely wait for the person in front, the people in front to go first. And here it's just everybody crushing forward and trying to slip in next. And so, it's things like that you just have to get used to. So it's definitely been a journey. There have been really special times and there have been really difficult times as I try and figure out what I'm doing and how to make the most benefit of the time that I have here. Oh, and I forgot to mention too, I wanted to make sure to mention that on every Saturday now, in addition to the photo here of Kadrala and the prayers that the Lamas are doing, the IMI Sangha community every Saturday is also doing a 24-hour prayer-a-thon, and it's happening every week according to the advice of Lama Zopa Rinpoche. And so if any of you would like to join us for that, we're here doing that and enjoy having everyone coming together remotely, since we can't be together physically, in order to say these prayers. So I'm staying here for now. I don't know for how long. As we've all seen, things can change very quickly. It's hard to know what's going to come next, which is a practice for all of us in terms of trying to learn to be uncomfortable with certainty and how the things that we thought were secure aren't. So I can't really say what's going to happen next, but for the foreseeable future, I plan to be here at the Nunnery continuing my studies and hopefully speaking better Tibetan. So that's about all I was going to say from prepared notes, but Donna, if you have some questions that you want to pass on to me, I'm happy to answer.
Sure. Kate, Spencer had a question. I don't know. Kate, do you want to ask it yourself?
Hi, Kate.
Sure. Hi. It's wonderful to see you and hear you and get this little view into your life. Yeah.
And for those of you who are from Kadampa Center, Kate, Spencer, and I actually went to high school together.
Junior high too.
Yeah, junior high too. So it's great to see you here.
Yeah. So I've studied some Buddhism, and I'm really curious, what are the questions that your Geshe would find puzzling from a Westerner?
Okay. So right now what I'm studying are the different schools of Buddhism and their thoughts on how things exist. And the terminology is extremely difficult to translate into English. And so it's very easy for me to understand what the meaning of what these different are teaching. And so when I need to ask Esther a question, I sometimes have to ask the question many times in many different ways in order to get at what does that really mean, because I'm still not getting it. And so I can tell there's sometimes a mixture of amusement and a little bit of impatience as I keep trying to come at it from different angles in order to understand what these different terms mean. Does that answer your question, Kate?
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, Helen had a couple of questions. One is, how can we contribute to the Nunnery Library Project? And the other is, what online Tibetan language learning program do you use?
Okay. So there isn't an official project. You can certainly make a donation to the Nunnery and say that you'd like it to go to the library. And there is a, Donna will provide a link to donate to the Nunnery. It's on the Kadampa Center website, but maybe she could put it into chat as well. And so you can easily donate through FPMT's website to the Nunnery without having to go through the whole drama of a wire transfer. And you could put a note that you'd like it to go towards the library. And as time goes by, if there is an opportunity that I can arrange for a special project for the library, then I will definitely do that. So stay tuned. And then what was the second half of the question, Donna?
The second half is, what is the online Tibetan language course that you're using?
Oh, I've actually been studying in 3 different courses. So in Tibetan, there's actually, you have to learn it in 2 different ways. So there's the way that they speak, and then there's the classical texts. So I've been taking an intensive 6-week, they call it a colloquial course, where you learn how to speak with this fantastic woman, Francisca Ortel, who grew up with a Tibetan mother, but she's a Westerner. So she's got this real unique blend of languages as a native speaker of several languages. And so she's able to present Tibetan in an amazing, deep way and relate it to both the grammar we need to know and also to how Tibetans view the world and how it relates to Buddhism. So that was great. And then I'm currently in classes with Bill McGee through my Tripa College in Portland, which is a part of FPMT. And then we have guest stars like Craig Preston and other stars of the Tibetan classical language who come in and help us understand how to read these texts, which often words are condensed down. So they might take 2 or 3 Tibetan words and shorten them. And so trying to translate from a classical text can be incredibly difficult because there's so much that is assumed that you know. And so those are ongoing classes that I'm taking. And then there's an institute here called Rangjung Yeshi Institute that's also a quite famous translation program. And I bought one of their online courses, so I don't have a live teacher, but I got the book and videos and find that has been extremely helpful as well. So a whole combination of different things.
Ani Tendron Downs had a couple of questions. I'm not sure if she wants to ask them. Or do you want me to for you?
You go ahead.
Hello, my dear friend.
Hi, congratulations. I was so
Oh.
glad to hear this. Thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Okay. So her questions, do you see yourself returning to America, and what do you see as the most beneficial use of your ordination here? And do you see Kopan nuns coming to the West to teach?
Mm. Okay, so we'll see if I'm awake enough to remember all the parts of the question. Test of my mindfulness. That's all right. Okay, do I see myself returning to America? I'd say it's pretty likely because if nothing else, it can be a real challenge to live at my age internationally because of these issues. So I imagine there will probably be a point where I need to come back. And I have it very deeply in my heart that when I do come back, I'd like to help establish a nunnery in the United States, because there really aren't options for women who want to get ordained in America to go live in community. There's Shrivasti Abbey, which is amazing. And there's only benefit for being able to grow that for FPMT. And so Milarepa Center has been trying to establish itself as a nunnery or monastery. So, you know, in the back of my mind, I don't know what it will be like when I come back, but that might be an opportunity. So I don't know how it would look or what would happen, but that's my heart wish, is that when I come back, that would be the focus of what I would be doing. And that's really how I think I would make the most use of my time, because being here in the nunnery, even though I'm not, I'm sort of on the edge of it, I'm really an outsider looking in, I can still see and experience incredible benefit of practicing together in community, which is really how it was intended. You know, it was intended that community lived when you become a monk or a nun, that you live in this community. And Lama Zopa Rinpoche, in one of his recent videos, talked about, you know, for those of you brave ones who are out sort of on your own and really doing the hard work of doing this without that support, should come back to a nunnery or monastery at least for a month every year, in order to get that benefit and kind of the support of having the other Sangha around you to really ground you in your practice. Even if you're just staying here to work, that it will nourish you and help you in your practice. So it's very difficult for people to come overseas to do that. And so we really need these communities in the States for women who want to practice.
Yeah. What do you think about, is there a possibility that you can see of Kopan nuns coming, like the Geshe-mas coming to the West?
See, I forgot part 3.
But, you know, what I'm thinking is, like, for periods of time to have Kopan nuns here, you know, just so we can meet them and hear teachings from Geshe-mas, you know?
Yeah, so that's really up to the individual centers. You know, they have to invite. So yeah, I think that's really what it comes down to, is if the centers invite Geshe-mas to come teach. And there's even an amazing Western Geshe-ma, Geshe-ma Wangmo. So yeah, that's if your communities want them to come, you have to just keep inviting until they do.
Great. Thank you.
Okay, and Angela had a couple of questions. Angela, do you want to ask, or would you like me to?
I can ask. Hi.
Hi, Angela.
Hi, how are you? I'll turn on my video. So a couple of things good to see you.
Thank you. You too. Do you want to tell them where we last saw each other?
Yeah, so I was in Kopan at the time when she was getting ordained. I was there for several months as well, so I kind of saw the anxiety and uncertainty that she was going through. And one day it was with the shaved head and the robes. I was like, whoa. That's what happened. It's been awesome. So my first question was, how did you decide on staying at Kopan Nunnery versus joining a Sangha community in the West? Because most Western Sanghas don't do the steps that you've done. So I was curious about that. And another question was, I was wondering if there's a plan to kind of support and expand the Western Sangha in the Kopan Nunnery going forward.
So I didn't really imagine myself being here at Kopan's Nunnery. That wasn't really what I was thinking when I came here. The advice I had from Rinpoche about getting ordained here was not very detailed. And so it said, come to Kopan in 2019. And so I had it in my mind that that might mean staying, but I also was thinking that perhaps I would be up at the monastery because there are some senior Western Sangha there. But as things evolved, I had the opportunity to ask Rinpoche again about some options, which included maybe not being here, but it came back to stay. And then it was really on the advice of the senior Sangha that I needed to be in the nunnery instead of in the monastery, because I'd be learning from the other nuns about being a nun, whereas it would be even more awkward to be a new nun among all the monks. You know, so it just seemed the best according to all of the senior Sangha who were advising me. So that's how I ended up here. Was there more to the question? Now I can't remember, sorry.
Oh, is there plans to support and expand the Western Sangha in Kopan Nunnery?
Yeah. It's possible that that will happen because the nunnery has a long-term view of creating an education program like the monastery has, where we would be running programs where Westerners can come in and study with monastics actually staying here as guests in the nunnery. There's a beautiful guest house that they've built. All the facilities are in place. And the way that that works up at Kopan Monastery is that they will invite Western Sangha to come and lead many of those programs. And then they have also monastics from the actual community here coming in and doing some of the teachings. So it's a blend of Western and Eastern. So since that's the plan of the nunnery, I think that could evolve over time. And it's possible that once they see how great it is, they'll want to stay.
Thank you.
Peter had a couple of questions that he emailed me before he started. He was anticipating. Some of them have been answered. Peter, do you want to jump in?
Hi.
Peter, hello.
Good. Yeah, I just finished reading Big Love, the biography of Lama Yeshe, and they talked in there about the children's school. Is that still there? Is that still active during the virus?
I don't really know, Peter. I'm sorry.
Okay. I was just curious. Yeah. And have you been able to attend Lama Zopa's teachings during the COVID crisis, or is that also restricted?
Yeah, it's been, my heart really wants to be there, but my situation does not allow me to, because I can't really travel between the nunnery and the monastery.
Right.
You know, there's too much risk that I could catch the virus and then actually bring it into the teachings with Rinpoche. So the Western Sangha who are up at the monastery do get to go, but I join him on video like the rest of you.
Okay, thank you.
Good to see you.
I have one question.
Sure. Who is that speaking?
I'm Naga.
Hi, Naga. Oh, now I see you. Yes, hello.
So, any of those kids that they pick them as, monastic nuns, do they feel that they're not? They have change of mind. They want to go home, or do they have families to go back if they decide they don't want to be in the monastery?
Good question. So it's important to know that the nunnery doesn't pick people to be nuns. So the children that come here are actually telling their families that that's what they want to do. I've had the chance to speak with a lot of teenage nuns about how they came to the nunnery. And they talk about how they knew from just a very young age that they wanted to be a nun. And often their families would try and discourage them, saying that being a nun is a hard life. A lot of their families see it as a hard life. And like me, they see it as the opposite, that having to stay a laywoman would actually be a harder life. And so depending on when their families agree is when they can come. So some of them, their families agree when they're quite young. Others, their families don't agree until they're much older. So one of the new nuns here is actually 17, and she's had to start the program as a teenager because her parents weren't ready to let her come. But once she was old enough and they were convinced that she wasn't going to change her mind and that this truly was a decision she could make, then they agreed to let her come. There's usually a bit of a probationary period where they come in and stay as still as lay people. So they haven't ordained yet, but they still come and live in the community in order to get used to it and try it out. And the nuns also evaluate whether or not they're ready. So another example is there was a young woman who was the niece of one of the nuns here. And from a very little age, she was saying, I want to be a nun, I want to be a nun, I want to be a nun. But she would come in and stay with us. And then she was a bit out of control. She was still not ready. And so they would send her out and say, you need another year of school. And they said, no, she couldn't do it yet. And so there is a whole process to try and make the decision wisely, respect everyone's wishes. And, over time, if someone, we don't like to think that people will disrobe. When you take monastic vows, it's really with the intention that you're going to keep it for the rest of your life. But it does happen that over time, someone may find that that they have reasons that they need to leave. And that is also possible too.
Okay, Susie has a question.
Hi, Susie.
Hello. It's very good to see you and to hear what you've been doing and what you've gone through. And I'm amazed at the patience. You've been getting a real lesson in patience in so many ways. How can you converse in Tibetan? In just a rudimentary way, or can you ask a question that's a little higher level?
I'm still very rudimentary. I spend a lot of time doing small talk, which for an introvert is quite unbearable.
Patience. Everything is a hurdle.
What the basic interactions that the nuns like to have is, as you're leaving, they like to, or passing by, they like to either ask, where are you going or where have you been? Which I find hilarious because it's not like we have many answers to that question.
The bathroom.
Yeah, and how are you, of course, very polite to ask as you're going by. So those are the phrases that I've learned first and can use on a pretty fluent basis. But if I want to ask a more complicated question, like for instance, when I go to Geshe Jinpa's teachings, before I go in, I like to ask politely, may I come in? And that also requires honorific language. So there's, in addition to all these other complications, there's also common language that you would use with people who are familiar or junior, and then there's honorific language that you use with teachers. And so I had one of my friend tutor nuns write the question out, and then I would practice it so that when I would go, then I had the phrase ready. So for harder questions, I have to write them out and find out if they're actually correct, and then practice them.
So in your hour-long class that you take by yourself, it's in English?
No. The one that I take with Geshe Jinpa, you mean?
Yes.
No, he doesn't. He doesn't teach in English. He teaches in Tibetan, and so I have an online translator.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I thought maybe you were just,
Yeah.
You're amazing.
Oh,
thank you.
Yeah.
I learned a lot.
Okay, Carol on YouTube asks when you were considering where to stay if Tosom Ling Monastery was an option. I'm not familiar with it, but.
Oh yeah, it's a wonderful place in India. And I believe Drolkar might still be lurking here. She stayed there. So it would have been wonderful, but I wasn't really thinking of going to India. Just personally, what you know, as much as I would love to go to Dharamsala, you know, I don't think it was really in my mind that was where I thought I would be.
Okay. I don't see any more questions.
I have a question.
Lucy, hi.
Hi. When you talk about being an old woman, I don't remember, I don't think you're quite that old, and I don't remember you as being old. I remember you as being a lovely young woman. I have a family question, and I hope I'm not breaking the bonds of asking you, but years ago in high school, your brother and Kate and I went to the David Taylor Naval Basin exhibition over in Maryland. I don't know if you remember. And I drive by it frequently, and I think of your brother. And I just have always wondered over the years, did he ever study science?
My brother, did he study science? Well, he's a nuclear engineer with the Navy, so he has definitely continued with science.
Well, I'm so happy to know that, because it meant that the trip was meaningful to him. It was really a fantastic experience for us, for Kate and myself, and I think of it frequently. Well, I'm glad to know that. I wish you grace in life in your choice of how to live. I admire that very much. And actually, I'm not surprised that you have chosen this, because there was always a gentleness to you. And maybe you knew it back then. Who knows?
Thank you so much, Lucy. You're so very kind.
Well, it's so wonderful to see you. And
it's great to see you too.
Well, I am old. I'm old. And I hope that you will get this old. I'm about 85 by now.
Oh, thank you.
And of course, Kate is still around, and
yes,
she told me about you, and I said, "Oh, of course I have to say it." And so the best of what life can bring. Thank you very much for having this Zoom.
Thank you so much, and may you have many years of life as well. Good health in that time.
Thank you.
So.
We're surviving. So far, we don't have the virus, and we live in the same house, and my husband is still with me. And so Arlington has changed a lot, but we haven't changed that much. Good luck. No,
thank you so
much. More than luck. Honorable life, and you've chosen it. Thank you.
Thank you. So that seems like a lovely place to finish.
Yes.
With Lucy's kind thoughts and all of your amazing faces and hearts. I'm so glad to have connected with you tonight. And I pray and dedicate that any of the good energy or merit that we have created today is really of benefit to all of you, as well as to all sentient beings. May they be free of suffering and find ultimate happiness.
Thank you, Venerable.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Donna, for facilitating all of this.
Sure.
Making it possible.
Thank you.
Chris, I'm sure helped as well. Thank you.
And if anybody is moved to help support the nunnery, that link is also on the calendar page for other websites. So a very beneficial use of your funds.
Bye.
Very good.
Bye.
Thank you so much.
Good night.
We love you.
Love you too. Mwah.
Thank you,
Good
Sue.
morning.
Have a good day.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Go get a donut.
Not Tuesday.
We're seeing Carol there pretty closely.